Mitchell to the rim, lays it in!
Welcome into another State of the Bulldogs episode with Sam, Mike, Jeb, and Grant. Substitute teacher Grant is here all by himself, so we had to call in some reinforcements. It's the guy whose extra voice you just heard, Blake Gardner, voice of Samford, joins the show, I think, for the first time. Brother, how's it going?
Dude, long time no talk. I think we were texting yesterday. Good to finally get on the pod. Been waiting for an invite. I mean, you've had the president on, the athletic director, head coaches, players. So glad to finally contribute for once.
Yeah, only big time. You could talk to Martin when he reached out to me. He's like, I guess I'm not big time like Becker Bucky to get on. I got to find a way to get on. I said, we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
Listen, the guest list has grown exponentially since you guys have kept the podcast going. It's kind of impressive. You started with like whatever players you could find and some other people, and now you've had all the big timers on. So excited to talk some.
Yeah, we're kind of running out of names at this point. It's like this before we start this summer. Okay, who do we need to have on? So, well, we haven't done Tony. We haven't done a couple other people we need to work on. So we'll work on that. Lenny, obviously, Gross too. So yeah, there's some names still out there for us.
Yeah, you got some room. We'll get some baseball guys on here as the season starts to kind of get going here. I know they're a couple of weeks in. Yeah. Once you get to March, kind of everybody turns that direction. We'll talk a little bit more baseball.
Yeah, kind of inside joke. We've been reaching out to baseball guys. They're locked in. They haven't responded to any of our. Sorry to call you out like this, Sam, when you're not here, but yeah, he's trying real hard. So maybe once we get done with basketball, we'll get some guys on. Once we get in the crux of the season, figure that out.
Isn't that what you want though? You want guys that aren't in the DMs every night. They're locked in at the craft.
Yeah, that's what I was telling Sam. That's a good thing. John Whitney and guys like seniors like Jeffrey, they're locked in. They've got other things to worry about other than talking to us for 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, Whitney and those two guys specifically have been rehabbing. So listen, they've been focused on getting healthy, getting back to the field. John just got back to the game. I think it was yesterday he made his first appearance, and again, is hoping to get back this weekend. So those guys were locked in, just trying to get on the field, and so hopefully they're both ready to go, and then maybe they'll be ready to talk.
Yeah, podcast first, game second. The games are secondary at this point. Shout out Social Network. They're wired in. They're focused on what they got to do right now. So no time for us.
Exactly.
So yeah, I wanted to have you on in part because I needed a compadre here. But second of all, just your thoughts on Samford basketball. The streak ended over the weekend, losing to Mercer by a few points. We were there right there till the end. A couple turnovers late kind of sealed the fate. Mercer put up 93 points. Obviously, they only put up like 44 points when they were here in Homewood. But just your overall thoughts on the season as we've got some games in other conference we'll get to in a second, winding down at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you knew the streak was going to end at some point, right? Better it ends now than in Asheville, obviously. And Mercer's a really good team. You kind of had a feeling that we're going to shoot like they did when they came to Homewood a few weeks ago. And Lenny kind of touched on that in his post game, right? When Samford took out Mercer by a bunch, he said, look, I've been there. I've had a team where you can't throw it in the ocean. It happens. Everything just kind of snowballs on you. He's like, credit our guys who play good defense, but they also didn't hit any shots. And so you saw them hit shots in a big way. I mean, two guys went for 20 plus. I think they were 40+% from deep in that game. I think they were like 76% from inside the arc, which is pretty wild. That's just a really good. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good offensive team. I mean, they're the number one offensive team in terms of efficiency for a reason. So disappointing for Samford not to get a result there. That means you probably don't have a shot at the 2 seed unless a couple of results break your way this weekend. But having said that, I mean, it's been a tremendous February for those guys. I think if you would have told people, hey, after the 2-5 start, that you've got a chance to finish the league season 11-7, I mean, you'd be thrilled. And I mean, Lenny said it, and people around the program kind of talked about it too. Like, yeah, they were 2-5 or 3-6 or whatever, but that wasn't a 2-5 or 3-6 team, right? It was a bunch of close losses piled up on top of each other. The buzzer beating loss to ETSU, single digit loss to UNCG, Chattanooga, lost by 4 to Furman, lost by 5 to Furman at their place. Like, all those losses were so close, and you had chances down the stretch in every game. So on the one hand, you kind of look at your guys and like, look, we're not a 2-5 or 3-6 team. But on the other hand, you don't want it to snowball, right? Because once you start that slow, I mean, you start losing the confidence a little bit, especially in those close games. So credit to those guys. They kind of dug themselves out of it. And the way that they have played this February has led to a really sustainable brand of basketball that hopefully they can carry into this final weekend and then ultimately carry into 3 days in Asheville.
You talked about, to that point, spin zone. It's better to lose now right before you get to Asheville. So yeah, that let's get the
Right.
streak over. We don't have to worry about the streak. We'll focus on what we need to do. But you talked about early in the season. I remember we recorded after that loss to Chattanooga. We're down like 28 at one point. The first half came back, lost by 8. It's like, oh boy, this stretch coming up. If you don't find a way to steal kind of these games, that this could kind of go off the deep end. And they ended up losing all those games. Like you said, losing to Furman by 4, ETSU buzzer beater. Then Wofford, you were tied with like 3 minutes left, and you go scoreless the rest of the game. And then you bounce back against Chat Furman game. Then again, you go on this run. So yeah, we thought too. It's like, oh no, we're gonna the same joke we talked about last week. So we playing Citadel or Chattanooga on Friday? Is that what we're doing here? And then like, oh no, we need to figure this out. You talked about the double-digit wins and another spin zone. It's like, well, we can't win the close games. Let's just find a way to beat teams by more possessions. We have to worry about those close games. You beat Western by 14, Citadel by 14, Mercer by 20, Wofford by 17, ETSU by 10, and then you squeak out a game against Citadel. So yeah, it's just the ups and downs of a mid-major basketball team in one bid league.
Yeah, and I think it was a team that was still kind of trying to find themselves, especially on the defensive end of the floor, right? You look at that stretch that you were talking about, especially where they lost, what was it, 4 in a row there
Yep.
in mid-January. Zion missed what, 2 of those games, 3 of those games? He was out.
2, yeah.
Yeah, he was out, and then it took him a minute to kind of get his sea legs back under him. Um, Faulkner was hurt. I think in the UNCG game, he sprained his ankle. He was not quite operating 100%. He actually missed that Western Carolina game they won. Around that same time, he had the shoulder brace that he kind of added on his left shoulder. He's just kind of been playing through that throughout the year. So, I mean, it wasn't a healthy group. They weren't playing cohesively, especially on the defensive end of the floor. That's probably been the most encouraging thing for this group here in February is that the defensive end has really kind of stabilized. I mean, obviously they gave up a bunch to Mercer. That happens, but I mean, you look up all of a sudden, this team is 3rd in the conference in defensive efficiency going into this final weekend. And I think if you would have told a lot of Samford fans that back in January, you would have been shocked because
Oh, really?
I mean, this was a team that I mean just struggled to get stops, and it was in a variety of ways, right? Like everyone was making all the threes against Samford. Everyone was making all the free throws. Like stops were just so hard to string together. And now you look up and Samford, I think, is 4th in the league in terms of SoCon games in terms of defending the 3. And so that Mercer game aside, the defensive end has really picked up. They've found a way to string together stops. They've found a bit more of an identity on that end of the floor. They've stayed a really good defensive rebounding team, in large part thanks to Faulkner and some of the other guards that have gotten in there on the defensive class. And I mean, it's helped them tremendously. I mean, when you can string together stops, you've kind of got to go in with this team knowing that you're going to get pretty strong offense performances from at least 2 guys, right? Like you're getting 50 from Faulkner and Booth. You need a third contributor. That seems to change kind of night to night. But I mean, if you can bank 50 to 60 points between those 2 plus a third guy that you'll find throughout the game, if you can string together stops, all of a sudden this team becomes much more dangerous than the team that was playing together early in mid-January.
Yeah, we talked about that too over the course of the month. It's like, well, they're not getting stops, and then they're having a scoreless stretches. Like you can't have both. You got to have one or the other. You either got to be giving up points, you got to be scoring on the other end. We saw that kind of the Mercer game too, and trying to find that third scorer. Kate Norris has been that guy. He had 17 against Wofford, 14 against ETSU, then 19 against Citadel. So he's kind of been an extra guy. Then Cade's actually finding Keaton's finding some shots, actually throwing some in the ocean there behind the 3-point arc to kind of extending the offense a little bit. So those 2 guys, the brothers especially, have been a bigger reason why they went on this run.
Yeah, and you've heard Lenny talk about it, right? Like, and I think a lot of people just kind of expect like you're going to get 20 from Booth, you're going to get 20 from Faulkner, but I think Lenny said it multiple times talking to you guys that we go as the Norris brothers go oftentimes because one of them is probably going to have to be the third scorer, and the other one's going to have to make some plays, whether it's rebounding or defending. I think Keaton has come a long ways as a defender, especially as a small guard. And the numbers kind of back that up in terms of when he's on the floor versus when he's off the floor. And Cade finding himself as a scorer has been a huge boost for this group. When we've talked about the need for a third scorer, I mean, for a guy that didn't play a ton of big minutes last year as a freshman to turn into what he's turned into here throughout this Southern Conference stretch has been a big boost for this group this month.
Yeah, and as we get to kind of the last 2 games in Asheville, what are some, I know we just had the streak, but what are maybe some causes of concern you kind of want to keep your eye on as we finish the season?
Causes of concern. I mean, you always kind of look towards the defensive end of the floor first, right? Just because, I mean, for people that have watched Southern Conference basketball, this is a scorers league. I mean, the amount of good scorers in this league is pretty remarkable for a league of this caliber. I mean, there's not a league in the country that shoots more 3-pointers than this league.
It's crazy. I was just looking at that right now. Yeah.
And there's not another league, I think there might be one other league that turns it over less on like a per possession basis in terms of all the offenses in the league than this league. So the amount of good offensive coaching and talent in this league is pretty high level. So the offenses that you're going to have to go against in Asheville, when you look at Mercer, when you look at what Wofford's been able to do on that end of the floor, even ETSU, I mean, they're known for their defense, but they've got a couple of big time scorers that people have seen. I mean, you're just always wary about can we string together enough stops to advance? Because even if one of our guys isn't having a great shooting night, you've got to be able to stay in the game, right? Last
Yep.
year, Samford kind of had their ups and downs on the defensive end of the floor, playing a different style, right? They were playing a much faster pace, but they struggled to get consistent stops, and then they died in a just absolute rain of fire from Furman threes there. I don't think I've ever seen a
Oh,
shooting
no.
performance like that. So
Mhm.
I think the defensive end remains that kind of the concern. Like, can we string together enough stops for a defense that doesn't really turn you over a whole lot? You just got to be really strong in the glass, number one, which Samford has been. I think they're the number one defensive rebounding team in the conference coming into this final week. And number two, you got to stay sound and defend without fouling. And if you can do those two things, you got to trust that your offense is going to be good enough to get you somewhere. And Booth's going to make a few big shots. Faulkner's going to make some big plays. Cade Norris is going to make some big plays, and you got to hope that you've got enough to survive there for 3 days. But I mean, the defensive end, it was the place of importance for Samford when it wasn't going well in January, and I think it's going to be the place of importance for any success in March in Asheville next week.
Yeah, you mentioned Samford, the best defensive rebounding team in the conference so far. In terms of the overall conference, 3-point percentage, SoCon is fourth in the entire country when it comes to 3-point percentage, first in three-pointers attempts, as you mentioned. Then the turnover percentage, only the SEC has a better turnover percentage than the SoCon right
Wow.
now. So
Yeah.
it's just the way that the team is gelling together, playing this style of basketball at Lenny, trying to find different avenues. It's like, oh yeah, we need to find different ways to get Jaden open. We're doing that. We need to find ways to get Dylan the ball and more situations down low. I think I just want to ask Lenny, how often in practice do you guys work on post entry passes? Because that's literally the whole offense. Like if Dylan's down there, like we need to find a way to get him the ball. How much do you guys work on that? Because that's really the whole part of the offense. You got to find a way to get Dylan touches.
Yeah, it's interesting to bring that up because one thing I was going to ask him at shoot around tomorrow is I'm sure you guys have noticed kind of the wrinkle they've added to their offense where Dylan catches a lot high post or high post extended right at the nail or
Yep.
the elbow or thereabouts. But what they've started to do, they've added this wrinkle here over the last month, last 3 or 4 weeks, I've noticed, where they will entry it to him high post extended, like elbow ish. They'll run action away from him, but really it's all dummy action just to get him like catching the high post. And then he will back his way down into the
Yeah.
low post to assure that he has a one-on-one. Because what a lot of teams obviously have started doing is it's like almost an auto double when they roll it into the low post,
Yeah.
either on the catch or as soon as he puts it on the floor, he's got traffic coming. So it's a nice little wrinkle that they've added. And I wanted to ask him about how that came about.
It's almost like he's surprised when he doesn't see the dribble handoff come and he looks and he turns around. He's like, oh, wait, there's no one in the paint. Like, my guy guarding him, he's under the basket. I can go down there. And if the double comes, then you can kick it out to Jaden and stuff like that. But yeah, that is interesting the way they're kind of working that way. I mean, they do it with Shaver too. You don't want him doing as much as Dylan in that regard. But I mean, that's just like the whole offense, just trying to create action and get guys running around and hoping to get Jaden lost out like a Ray Allen and trying to find a way to get shots up because everyone knows that's where the ball's going, right? So you got to find different ways to create to get in the ball.
Yeah, the amount of ground that Jaden covers is pretty remarkable, especially given the minutes he plays. I think there's only one other guy, at least in terms of league games, that has played more minutes than Jaden has this year. Actually, I think Jaden might have the lead. It's him and TJ Johnson. I was going through this in prep because Samford plays VMI, and we've got that game tomorrow on ESPN Plus. He and Johnson like are far and away 1 and 2 in terms of minutes played this year in the league. And so, given the amount of ground that Jaden has to cover on an offensive basis, like on every half court possession. It's pretty remarkable what he's been able to do and how much of the offense he's been able to shoulder, even when, as you said, knowing like he's top of the scout for everybody. Like we can't let this guy catch, and even still, he gets off a number of shots, and even if it's not a good look, sometimes it's a good look for him
Yeah.
He continues to make shots. It's been really impressive for a guy that has been playing Division II basketball the last 2 years. What he's been able to do in this league has been pretty remarkable.
Yeah, if you know the guy takes some of the shots, you got the coach over there on the side like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we just took that. But like if he's shooting it, you're like, okay, like it's gonna go into sooner or later. But you talked about the minutes per game. He's 36.2 minutes per game. TJ's right behind him at 35.1. Keaton's sixth in the conference at 39.2. And like to that point, Jaden played 39 minutes against Mercer, 40 against Citadel, 44 against ETSU, 36 against Wofford. And he dropped 25, 19, 18, and 26 in those games. Like he hasn't scored in single figures since December 5th against VCU, 6 points. Like he's just been on a tear. And obviously Samford, as we talked about, he's been, because if he's not going, it's like, oh gosh, we're kind of in trouble the way the season had gone before this winning streak.
Yeah, those two guys, Keaton and Jaden, play huge minutes. And credit to them for staying healthy, because neither of those guys are the biggest guys on the planet, right? I think Jaden's listed at 6'2". I think Keaton's listed at 6 foot, 5'11", somewhere in there.
How about that?
And I know for sure, talking to Coach Acuff last week or 2 weeks ago, as of maybe the start of February, I think he compared it to an NFL team. He's like, listen, Jaden and Dylan, especially, like those guys are wearing the different colored jerseys. Like no one touches them. They are non-contact in practice. Do not touch them. Do not hit them. Like we're trying to get some reps in here, but please do not do anything to jeopardize their health, because obviously those two in particular are so important to this group. And I mean, those two in particular take a beating already, right? Like guys get physical with Jaden away from the basketball at least as much as they possibly can. And I mean, they're there on the catch. Like the amount of times Jaden's gotten fouled shooting a three because guys are like in his face is a pretty high number this year. Yeah, I mean, he's good for at least one a game. It's crazy.
He makes
and then, I mean, Dylan, when I looked it up earlier in prep for the VMI game, I think Dylan is third in the country now in terms of fouls drawn per 40 minutes. Like the dude gets fouled all the time. And so, I mean, we talked about it. He's sprained his ankle twice this year. He's wearing a shoulder brace on his left elbow. Like the dude takes an absolute beating. So totally can understand why you don't want him seeing any more contact in practice than what he's going to see in the game, because he's going to see a ton.
Yeah, and to that point, teams change it defensively. ETSU, they hard hedged completely all the way. Almost as like, oh, we're going to take this as far away and you try to get a bigger guy on Jaden. We try to slow him down a little bit. That worked in the first half, but in the second half, he kind of took off and found his groove. And he has had a couple slow first halves, but it's like if it's slow, it's not going to be slow for much longer. He's going to hit 3 threes in a row. It's about, okay, like this is our game. And for a guy, like you said, coming up from D2, his first and only season in Division I basketball is pretty impressive after he had a knee injury a couple years ago, fighting his way back and fighting to be first team All SoCon probably.
Yeah, he's awesome. For people that haven't heard his interview with the SoCon Fast Break guys, go check it out. It was really, really, really cool. Good deep dive on him and where he's at in life and what brought him to Samford, and really cool story. Fun to have him in Homewood this year and cover him.
Yeah, exactly. 1 of 2 married guys on the team, so we got that going for us.
Yeah.
It's a very Samford-y.
That's very, very Ring by Spring. Fits in perfectly on campus.
There you go. No, but Jan term's gone. You got to hurry up and get that done. You don't have Jan term to think about it.
Exactly.
Is there kind of an X factor, a certain guy, maybe outside of the starting 5, I guess, mainly those 4, the Norse is Jaden and Dylan. There's kind of the X factor. If Samford can take another level, this person plays well.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's Zion. And it's been Zion the whole year for me. I mean, I think you and I kind of talked about it in December and January, just in our text kind of back and forth. And look, there's going to be some games where like it's not a Zion game. He's not going to be as helpful because, I mean, you're going to need buckets, and that's not really his forte, although he had a huge offensive game against the Citadel. But there's going to be nights in this league where you need guys that can play lockdown defense and guys that can switch and defend and guard multiple positions. And I mean, Zion's, to his credit, a guy that can defend 1 through 4, and what he has given Samford in terms of optionality off the bench in this Southern Conference run has been absolutely awesome. I mean, I was looking up the numbers in terms of like on off earlier, and outside of Keaton, in terms of defensive rating when he's on the floor, Zion's the second most impactful defender on this team.
There you go.
I mean, Samford is, I think, 4 or 5 points better per 100 possessions when Zion's on the floor this year. So regardless of whether he scores or not, when he's on the floor, you kind of got to trust other guys to score, or you can find him as a cutter or a driver. In fact, Lenny even drew up I think he drew up a baseline out of bounds specifically for Zion in the Citadel game. I need to go back and clip it, but he drew up a baseline out of bounds where Zion caught the whole left side of the floor cleared for a left-handed driver, and Zion
Yep.
just bullied his way to the rim and scored. I was like, dude, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
what a development. If this guy can give you something on the offensive end, because I mean, you're really just he's there for the defense and the rebounding, right? The guy makes defensive plays. He rebounds, he fights his tail off on that end of the floor. And then on the offensive end, you kind of take what you get. But in a tournaments, when you play back to back to back days, you're going to need some stops and you're going to need some guys to give you energy and you're going to need some fresh legs. I think if he can continue to contribute like he has been over the last 3-4 weeks, he gives the Samford team such a different look in terms of optionality, athleticism, and a guy that can be a lockdown defender and is switchable, can guard 1 through 4, sometimes 1 through 5. I think he's kind of the X factor that you look at and say, okay, if he can make a few big plays like he did in the ETSU game, like he did in the Citadel game, I think it changes the dynamic of this team in a big way.
Hey, I mean, he was the big reason why in fact, the only reason why they got to overtime, he had the big steal against ETSU, went to go help Keaton on that switch with Zion. So yeah, just him defensively, and he's part of Stanford's best five was out there. He's got some small ball five in him too if you need him. He had that game, I think, when Dylan was out, he stepped up big in that one. So yeah, I think so too. Zion's kind of that guy, and then whatever offense you get because he brings the defense, he brings the rebounding, he brings the kind of the toughness that a smaller team needs. So.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? How multiple teams in the league kind of have a guy like that. Like Furman's got Ben Vanderwall, who's kind of the same deal, right? Vanderwall's a little bit bigger, but I mean Zion's a better offensive player than Vanderwall, I think, at least in terms of shooting and getting to the rim. But I mean, Furman makes it work. I mean, that guy defends and he rebounds and he makes that team go in a large number of ways. Citadel's got some similar guys like that. AJ Clark kind of fills that role for VMI when he's healthy. So you need guys like that who can be stoppers, who can bring energy on that defensive end of the floor, and hope that they can create some opportunities with their defense to give you looks in transition on offense, or at least just to get you consistent stops that allow your offense to build a lead.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like even Evan Maya has Zion and Sanford's best 4-man and 5-man lineup too. It's just what he brings defensively. Sanford's best five, obviously Zion with Norris brothers, Jaden and Dylan are kind of those guys kind of leading the way. So yeah, we'll see what happens next couple games. Sanford, as this drops, will be home against VMI Thursday night, and then host UNCG. Sanford won up at VMI on New Year's Day. They had that 24-0 run or whatever to take the lead and win that one at VMI. They lost at UNCG, so you need to get that back, especially when it comes to tiebreakers. But you mentioned you've got 2 games this week. You called a baseball game Tuesday night. You've got Sanford basketball Thursday, Sanford baseball Friday, Sanford basketball Saturday, and Sanford baseball Sunday. So let's stick with basketball. Do you just when it comes to prepping for a game, for those of you who don't know, I thought it'd be interesting for those who maybe had some questions like what goes into a broadcast. You're trying to find a way to prep for a game. So a basketball game, what goes into prepping? Do you just show up to the games? Like, oh, I looked some stats and some top 5 guys, I'm ready to roll. Or what goes into your prep?
Yeah, so it varies by sport, but let's take the VMI game for example. So I've been looking at VMI stuff since this is on Wednesday. We're recording this. So I've been looking at VMI stuff since this morning, kind of getting caught up on where they've been. Sanford obviously hasn't played them since like the very beginning of the year, so haven't really been on my radar necessarily. So I've been looking at first. You start with the game notes from the opposing team. Usually the SID helps furnish those. Looking at game notes, looking at interviews both that the SoCon records and then other stuff from throughout the season, that whether it's pregame, postgame kind of interviews, kind of seeing where the vibe's at, where that team's at. Obviously, that team's had a bit of struggles. I'm looking at KenPom. I'm looking at kind of the advanced analytics stuff to see what are some trends coming into this game that I need to be aware of that could help shape kind of the storylines of what we're going to talk about. So, for example, for VMI, obviously, we want to talk about a little bit about the game they played back in January against Stanford, but I mean, everything kind of starts with the guys they don't have available right now, which is Ricky Bradley, who was the preseason All SoCon Player of the Year, and then AJ Clark, who's been out the last 4 or 5 weeks. So they've been out without their best player and their best defender, really, which has really been a detriment to a team that wasn't very deep to begin with. And then we'll kind of go guy by guy in terms of everyone that's going to play tomorrow and kind of get the basics on them, and then also some trends and some nuggets on them. So, for example, if you take a guy like Caden Stuckey, like I've got it in my notes that he started the last 3 games in a row. He's probably going to start 4 for 4 in the Samford game tomorrow. I've got his last 3 or 4 game stats. I've also got a note from Kimpom that he fouls almost 7 times a game per 40 minutes. So you're looking at a guy who's a young guy who's had trouble staying on the floor because of foul trouble, and that kind of makes sense for a guy who didn't play a whole lot last year as a freshman, but now kind of thrown in playing big minutes as a sophomore. And depending on who you see night to night, you've got your hands full with another big guy in this league, and he'll have his hands full tomorrow with Dylan Faulkner. So that kind of goes down the line for everybody that's going to play. VMI only goes about 7 to 8 deep, so that makes prep a little bit easier for me on that side. And then on the Samford side, you kind of update the board from the last time we've seen them. Go through the same process: stats, trends, news, and notes. And then tomorrow will be shoot around day. Either me or sideline reporter Ariel Schaefer or both of us will go to either VMI or Samford or both shoot arounds tomorrow to talk to coaches and maybe a player or two, kind of check in, see how everybody's doing, get some other nuggets and news from them. Ariel likes to go a little bit deeper. She's usually got some questions for specific players on stories that she wants to talk about, going through players' background or something that she found on social media. She's really good at digging. That's kind of the newscaster in her that kind of finds those deeper storylines that we let her run with at a TV timeouts and stuff. So credit to Ariel for finding a lot of that. And then by the afternoon, usually you're kind of ready to go. And then you show up about 90 minutes before tip off, make sure nothing's changed, check in with everybody, make sure everybody's still good to go. And then you get ready to call the game. So that's kind of the process. And then you kind of get ready to do it all again the next day, right? So tomorrow, the funny part is about tomorrow after shoot around, I'm probably going to spend more time prepping for Samford Bowling Green baseball on Friday than I will be for the game tomorrow, because after shoot around tomorrow, I'm already prepped and ready to go for the basketball game tomorrow night. So you kind of want to work 1 to 2 days ahead to kind of keep yourself on schedule, especially in a busy week like this when you got games coming back to back to back to back at you.
Yeah, on the Samford side, when you have a chance to go to shoot around, or sometimes you don't, what's it been like? I guess the difference between maybe working with Bucky and Lenny, just like are there any differences or similarities between working with them and making sure you got everything down pat for the games?
It's a different vibe. I think Bucky's group they kind of marched to the beat of their own drum a lot of times. They kind of made their own schedule, which made it a little bit tougher to catch up with them on a consistent basis. Now, credit to Bucky. Bucky, if we had trouble getting in contact with him, he'd just be like, "Hey, here's my cell. Call me, whatever." And so he was always open to chat if you could find him in an open moment. Lenny's group is a bit more they're a bit more tight on schedule. We're here. This is what we're doing.
Right.
Bucky's group was also interesting in the sense that, I mean, not only was it a big roster, but a huge practice group as well. And so shoot around to them was like an actual practice. Like they were running, like they were blowing and going, whatever. For Lenny's group, it is very much a shoot around and like, hey, we are walking through like the opponent scout one more time. We're walking through like maybe a couple of twists and stuff that we're gonna do on the offensive end. But Lenny's been great about talking to us whenever we want. Credit to Brad and the SIDs over there who have let us talk to players and hang out with them post shoot around once they get their work in to kind of catch up on what happened on the road trip or what happened last game. So yeah, Lenny's group's been awesome to deal with, and it's been really fun to kind of watch this group grow together and kind of chat with them as this season has gone on.
Yeah, especially a whole new roster, 2 guys left over from last year, just a whole bunch of new coaches, everything. Thomas Owen's the only guy left over from the previous staff. He's the director of basketball ops. You got that factor too. So just working through all that before a game. And then when you get to a game, is there a certain number of percentage of notes that you use compared to what you don't use? Or does it change per sport like that?
It changes per sport. I probably maybe use like half of what I prep. And that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. I mean, you'd rather be kind of like an open note test, right? You'd rather be over prepared than under prepared. Number one, because that just gives you confidence going in. But number two, you never know really where the game's going to go, right? Like I might have a bunch of notes on Cade Norris tomorrow, but if Cade gets in early foul trouble and doesn't play a ton, I'm probably not going to use any of those notes. Whereas If Walker Andrews goes off again for VMI, all of a sudden I've got notes on that. Maybe Ariel's got a story on that. And the same kind of goes for Ariel too, right? Like she's got these pre-prepared deep dives. She's talked to people around the program. But like if the game doesn't flow that person's way, then like doesn't really make sense to do that deep dive, right? You kind of gotta trash that. So that's just kind of how it goes. You'd rather be over prepared than under prepared. It is funny the amount of stuff that you find out. I know Cole Kubelik's kind of mentioned this doing football games. The amount of stuff that you find out that you end up using like 2 hours before tip off or before game time is very funny. Just because like you may show up to shoot around and talk and whatever, and then you get to like the game, it's like, oh, by the way, that guy's not going to play.
Yeah.
He decided he couldn't. We're like, and you're like, oh, that would have been nice to know. Like now we find that out, or like, hey, so and so's really dealing with something tonight. Like, sorry we didn't tell you earlier, but now you know. Furman's interesting because we didn't get to talk to Bob until, gosh, maybe like an hour before tip off, maybe less.
I'm shocked.
Furman doesn't do road shoot arounds, so we didn't get a chance to go to that. But he was like, hey, I'm more than happy to talk to you guys when we get to the arena. I was like, all right, that's fine. When y'all get to the arena, like, oh, we usually get to the arena like 95 minutes before tip off, which is pretty typical. Most teams try to get to the arena around 90 minutes before tip off. And so I'm like, all right, we'll be there. We'll be there 90 minutes before. We'll talk to you then. Cool. Well, Furman stayed at a hotel down 280 and tried to leave their team hotel for a 6:30 tip around like 4:45.
No,
which was
not good.
for anybody that knows 280 traffic in Birmingham, that is a poor choice. Like you can't do that.
That's not good.
And so I think they're on their itinerary. They're like, yeah, we'll be at Samford no later than 5. I don't think they got to the arena until close to like 5:20ish. It was, I mean, they were rolling in there and like guys are sprinting in there to get some shots up. So they were kind of under the gun to begin with. But credit to Bob. I mean, literally, it was a 6:30 tip off. It had to be close to 6 before we finally got him. We were talking to him under the arena there at the Hannah Center, and he talked to us for a good 15, 20 minutes and hung out and chatted. And I mean, he's always a pretty talkative guy. So especially if you ask him good questions, he'll give you good answers. He was generous with his time, but it was just very funny. It was like, man, everything is this is kind of a bit of a race here. Did not get to the arena as quickly as we wanted to. So that was a funny one.
Yeah, he's been known to speak on a lot of topics that you ask him, he'll go off and we don't need to we've talked about that thousands of times.
Yeah, and it's funny. I gave him some grief. I was like, "Hey, man, listen. Since Bucky's left, I don't know if this rivalry has the juice anymore that it did." And he started laughing. He thought that was hilarious. But he was funny. He was fun to talk to as well because he has a ton of respect for Lenny. Lenny went to Greenville and like kind of met with him for like 2 or 3 days as they kind of talked offense. Their offenses are very similar. Lenny took one of Bob's assistants to be on staff with him this year. And so they share a lot of the same kind of offensive philosophies. And it's been fun to kind of talk to coaches and get their kind of thoughts on a guy like Lenny Acuff, who's been around college basketball coaching for a while and almost to a T. I mean, everyone we've talked to has a ton of respect for him and the way that he goes about things and runs the program. And I think a lot of people have been really impressed with him, not only from his time at Lipscomb, but what he's been able to do, as you said, with the roster that's totally flipped this year, to have a chance to finish second or third in the league with this rebuild group, I think has garnered. I mean, he already had a lot of respect coming in, but he's garnered just as much, if not more, throughout the course of the season from the coaches that we've talked to.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody out there who dislikes Lenny. Like, there's no one out there be like, oh yeah, I can't stand that guy. Like, I can't see that happening. There's no way someone would be like, yeah, I really don't like him that much. I said, what? You seriously? Why? What happened? But yeah, that's just the way.
Yeah, such a nice dude. Maybe cannot be said for Bucky as much as all the Stanford people love Bucky. Bucky might have had some detractors out there. Who's to say?
That is news to me. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, that is interesting the way you kind of go basketball and I changed on the fly. You just got 2 hours, right? You don't have baseball. Baseball could be as long as possible. Football, who knows football? The commercials see yes. Ample time to get certain news and notes that you want to. But basketball, you get 2 hours, 2 hours and 10 minutes. You got to get on. And then obviously the game can change no matter what.
Yeah, basketball is nice too because especially by this time of year, like everyone's rotations are pretty much set. Neither one of these two teams tomorrow or Thursday, whenever you're listening to this, are going to go very deep into the benches. So that makes prep a little bit easier because you can keep your prep kind of focused on specific guys. Whereas football obviously is a totally different beast. Soccer is kind of a totally different beast. So that makes it kind of nice.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, that's what goes into prepping for basketball games. And you got two basketball games. We've run through your whole schedule. You have a busy week as you finish basketball, and we'll see. Maybe there's another Monday night Asheville you have to drive up to, and maybe there's a game then you have to call. Who knows? We'll see.
Would not hate it.
And to that point, you talked about where Samford could finish. We do have some interesting results, more tiebreakers, and everyone loves to listen to me talk about tiebreakers. Shout out to bball.nothing.net to figure this out. We've had a wrench thrown into the plans as Wofford has gone on the road to beat ETSU in Freedom Hall 72-69 as we're recording. Furman beat Citadel by 21. Speaking of Bob Ritchie, I can't believe he would do that to his walk-on playing 1 minute and tell him to foul and then kick him out of the game and not let him go back in when he beats Citadel by 20. But yeah, Western Carolina beat Mercer by 4. So yeah, that kind of breaks down to what we've got going on tonight as we're recording. Samford VMI at 7, UNCG Chattanooga playing. That doesn't really factor in. It's really the Wofford ETSU game that is factored in. So Wofford's beating ETSU. Then the games on Saturday, we've got Chattanooga hosting VMI, Mercer hosting ETSU, Samford hosting UNCG at 5 o'clock on ESPN Plus, Western Carolina hosting Furman, and then Wofford hosting Citadel. So those are the games on Saturday to look forward to. As I said, Wofford beat ETSU. So if the favorites hold, and it's a SoCon, obviously we saw one favorite go down. We'll see if the favorites hold, which would be Chattanooga, ETSU, Samford, Furman, and Wofford. Then Samford would be the 4 seed in this scenario. There'd be a 3-way tie for third at 11-7. Furman, Samford, and Mercer. Samford will play Furman in the 4-5 matchup if Furman beats Western Carolina on Saturday. So that's probably the more likely outcome with the Wofford win tonight.
Interesting.
So
Asheville's gonna be weird. There's a lot of teams that can beat teams, and there's gonna be teams that. I mean, it's funny, right? Like if you ask Samford people, like they would much rather play someone like ETSU than Furman.
Yeah.
Or you'd rather play Wofford necessarily, but like I mean, ETSU would probably say like, hey, we'd rather see anybody other than Samford, which is funny because Samford could be like the 4 seed. Normally, you'd be like, oh, the 1 versus 4, you're fine, but
yeah,
not this year. And there's certain teams that are just bad matchups for teams for whatever reason this year. Western Carolina is a sneaky bad matchup for a couple of teams. I mean, I think Western Carolina swept ETSU.
they did. Yeah.
They beat Mercer obviously tonight. So I mean, the Catamounts are low key kind of scary for a couple of teams. So I don't know. Asheville, there could be some wacky stuff. Kind of like last year when what was Furman? Furman the 5 seed, and then Wofford was like the 6 or the 7.
Yeah. Wofford was the 6. Yeah.
And that was the championship game. Kind of feels like we could be headed that way again.
Yeah, in this scenario, there could be a 3-way tie at 11-7 for third, and a 3-way tie for 6 at 8-10 with Western UNC Chat. And the reason Samford be the 4 seed in this scenario because they beat ETSU and Mercer didn't. If ETSU beats Mercer on Saturday. So if you go the other way, let's say Western Carolina. So basically, if you're a Samford fan, you want Western Carolina to beat Furman. That's how you get the 3 seed in this scenario. So let's say Western beats Furman, ETSU still beats Mercer. Samford would be the 3 seed playing Western Carolina.
Okay. I think that would probably be the preferred scenario.
Yeah, so
who would be the 2 seed? Wofford.
It would be ETSU, Wofford, Samford, Mercer, Furman, the top 5.
That would probably be the preferred scenario if you're a Samford fan. You feel pretty good about that one, man. That's pretty brutal race for to not play on Friday down there between everyone that's trying to stay out of that first day.
Yeah, let's see Mercer scores 100 against ETSU and they win that one, and Western still wins. Samford would play Furman in the 4-5 matchup.
Okay, don't love that.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need to do that again. That would be that Saturday night game we played last year. So yeah, if you're a Samford fan, you want Western to win and ETSU to bounce back and beat Mercer in Macon.
Yeah, be interesting to see how much ETSU cares about that game, given that they've got the 1 seed already locked up. You would think at least a little bit, right? They're not going to play again after that Saturday game until the next Saturday.
That'd be this Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Be interesting to hear from Brooke Savage on what their thoughts are going to be for that.
And if Samford lost to UNCG, they would be the 5 seed playing Furman. So you'd still be playing Furman in that scenario.
So don't love that. So Samford needs to, from a Samford perspective, they take care of business tomorrow and then take care of business Saturday. Bottom line.
Yep. Bottom
I think I
line.
saw where they're 18-point favorites against VMI tomorrow. But it's tough. Been a tough year from the Keydets from what I've seen.
Yeah, 6. Yeah, 1-15 in conference. But yeah, those are the tiebreakers. We don't need to go into everyone else, but it's really easy when you just obviously have one game as we're basically 5 games, 7 games as this drops tomorrow. So yeah, that's what you need to look out for. So go Western when they host Furman and Coley.
So close. It's a couple days away from having a bracket.
Almost there, almost bracket season. On to Samford baseball, who you just called. Samford scored 5 unanswered against North Alabama to beat them 6-5 on Tuesday night. You and Parker May had the call now on ESPN Plus. Samford is 3-5 overall. We don't need to get into the Georgia series. They hung out, played some games, and then they traveled back to Homewood to play North Alabama. They host Bowling Green this weekend. You're calling 2 of those games. 4:00 on Friday, 11 a.m. Saturday, and then 11 a.m. Sunday. What's been kind of your thoughts? You've had the opening series against Belmont, the game against Bama, and then the game against North Alabama. What are your thoughts on kind of the way you think the team kind of gel as we keep going?
Yeah, I mean, I still think that team can be really, really good. It'll be interesting to see what the lineup looks like once Ince comes back healthy.
Yeah.
I think adding a guy like John Whitney too, whether he's with his bat or on the mound, I think is going to help a lot as well. It's still all going to be about how the pitching staff gels. I think this group's going to hit. They didn't hit very well the first 2 weeks of the year. That includes that Georgia series. And they left some big opportunities on the table on Tuesday against North Alabama. They just had some big swings finally. They all kind of came in the 8th inning all together from guys like Eddie Marshall and Cade Carr. So I think this group is going to hit. I don't think that's going to be the concern, even though some guys are off to slow starts. I think it's going to be all about the pitching and how does the pitching gel and what does that look like? I mean, you got to love what you've seen from Zach Spurrier at the back end of the bullpen so far. He closed down the UNA game on Tuesday and looked good doing it once again. I mean, I've seen him twice in person now, and both times his fastball was 94 to 97. The breaking pitch is okay, but I mean, the fastball is electric.
It plays.
Yeah, 97 plays. So I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to be a big time asset for them out of the pen. And if they've got the starting pitching and they've got the back end, what they've got at the back end with Spurrier, I think the offense is going to hit. I think they're going to be just fine. So obviously did not love what it looked like in Athens there. But I think at minimum they should be thinking they're taking 2 or 3 this weekend from Bowling Green to get back on track, and then you kind of go from there.
Yeah, to that point, Fredette, your freshman Sunday starter, he pitched 1 2/3, maybe against Belmont, and then 2 against Georgia. It's like he's barely started his career, and he's got to find a way to get some footing back. He's only had he pitched 6 innings, just 3 innings or so. But yeah, he's another guy. Him on Saturday too. We'll see how he progresses over his freshman season, and then you've got Andrew Marble on Sunday as well. Another young guy, just threw 2 innings against Georgia. So
yeah, I mean the schedule these guys are playing off the top is not cheap either. I mean, obviously Georgia is what it is, but I mean, after this Bowling Green weekend, they go to Auburn. Auburn's obviously really good. They're still top 25 in the country. And then they go to Kennesaw State, and the Owls are really good too. I think they're an RPI top 100 team right now. So not exactly a non-conference schedule they can just walk through. So they're gonna get challenged here before conference play, and you just kind of got to hope that that's going to be for the best of this team by the time it gets to April and May.
And then after that, you got the home series with Little Rock, who was in the NCAA tournament last year. Was 1 away from going on to the Supers in the Baton Rouge Regional. So,
yeah. So I don't know. There's a long ways for that team to go, but I still think they could be really, really good. And that was a nice win for them to come back and get that game on Tuesday.
Yeah, some other guys are having some hot starts. Jake Souders over 1,000 OPS. He hit 2 homers, slugging .593 on base, .455. Luke Boykin's playing really well, hitting .290 OPS of 1,000. Started every game in left field. 4 bombs from him. He leads the teams. He was the transfer from the JUCO in Florida, so you got that going too. And then obviously you have Trey Higgins too, who gets some time in the outfield, DHing mostly. But yeah, you've got some guys. Obviously, Samford's going to hit, but as you said, it's the pitching, and whether we'll see what happens when you get some other guys in the bullpen outside of Spurrier. Maybe John can kind of be that guy to kind of guide them along. Noah Berry as well in that mix.
Jake Souders looks really good, and Luke Boykin looks really good too. That was a huge portal pickup for them. But yeah, I mean, you've gotten offensively, you've gotten nothing from Ince. He's been out since opening day. You've gotten basically nothing from Parker McDonald. Aside, I think he had a hit on Tuesday that kind of got him going, and you've gotten almost nothing from Jackson Harris either. Um, and you've had some catchers banged up. I don't think Hayden Perry is 100%. Hence why Eddie Marshall's getting so much run, although he had the big home run on Tuesday. So good for him getting his first college hit. So you've got not everyone in that lineup is fully clicking just yet, and which is whatever. You're 2 weeks into the year. They got plenty of time to get it going. But to the point where they're like they're gonna hit. That group is gonna be a really good offensive team. So not really concerned with that offense. And I think it's gonna be a fun group to follow.
Yeah, even if Parker's struggling offensively, the glove plays for sure. He's been awesome over
Yeah.
there at third base so far. He's been incredible.
Yeah. Glove plays. I mean, they've been a really good defensive team to start the year. I think they've committed like maybe one error so far. Like they're a really good team. They're SoCon favorites for a reason. And despite the record to start the first couple of weeks, I don't think I've seen anything to dispel any reason they shouldn't be considered the SoCon favorites right now.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they host Bowling Green this weekend. Bowling Green was just in Colui last week, and they lost 2 of 3 against Western Carolina, and then they came back home on the midweek and played Cincinnati, who you just saw Cincinnati play UAB this weekend. If you go on Bowling Green's website, they still have the old Samford logo. It's like, come on, guys, can we figure this out? Can we get the
That's
new
tough.
Bulldog in there? Shout out to
Don't
BJ,
love
who's now
that.
at UAB. Yeah, BJ, can you come back? We can figure this. I tell Bowling Green to figure it out. Forget UAB, we'll figure it out. But
Yeah,
tough look,
don't love that.
tough look there. Tough look there. Some other sports that are going on. Softball. Megan Curry's squad went 2-2 in the Bulldog Invitational in Starkville this past weekend, beating Delaware State twice. Thank you, Delaware State, for coming out. Losing to Mississippi State, then playing Belmont again. Lost to Belmont too. So they've got a slow start again. They've got a massive non-conference schedule. And in fact, this weekend they're in Eugene, Oregon, of all places. They're traveling up to Oregon. Well, they'll play Stetson, Idaho State, and then Oregon twice. I don't know how Stetson got involved at sea there. What are 2 Southern teams doing, traveling all the way to Eugene to play a series? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they kind of fare with Megan's group in her second year.
Yeah, they're playing the amount of travel they've done to start the year has been pretty wild. I mean, they've gone to Tallahassee, they've gone to Starkville, obviously they're in Oregon, then they're going to Mobile. She put together quite a schedule for that crew, and that's another crew that I don't know if they're swinging the bats right now, probably as well as they would have wanted to. But again, I think that group's going to hit. Katie Campbell's had a bunch of big swings for them early, but I think that group's got more left on the table offensively than what they've shown so far.
Yeah, like you said, they played Florida State, they played Georgia, they play Mississippi State. Those are all top 16 teams. And then Oregon, I'm sure, is factoring that mix too. They've got a midweek in April where they go to Oxford to play Ole Miss. So you've got that too. So yeah, they're really challenging themselves in the non-com, which is what you want to see when it comes down. Basically, just all these practice games basically before you get to SoCon play. Obviously, as we know, that's how it goes. But so yeah. Well, there you go. We've got 2 basketball games this weekend. Anything else you wanted to add before we get out of here?
I don't think so. Excited for this final stretch of regular season basketball, and excited that by the end of the day Saturday we'll have a bracket that we can stare at for a week before getting ready for the conference tournament in Asheville. I mean, it's kind of the best time of the year in my opinion. You got baseball and softball starting. You got postseason basketball coming your way in Asheville. Awesome venue at Harris Cherokee Center there in Asheville. So excited to watch some postseason basketball. Excited to finish up the regular season this week, and we'll see how these games go against VMI and UNCG.
Yep, sounds good. Maybe over the summer we'll get the rest of the crew on, and then all 5 of us can actually get on and do this, so they can ask you some questions too.
I told you I want to be involved, maybe in the host, but I want to be involved in the Jeopardy game. That was electric.
That's we got us 4. We got Beck. That's 5, and then Blake.
Beck wanted to be on the Jeopardy game too.
Yeah.
Literally, I think Beck and I talked about it. I think that was our favorite episode of the pod. Was the Jeopardy game? That was incredible.
Hey, that was the first thing. Yeah, before he even asked, like I haven't been on the show yet. The first thing he said was, "Dude, the Jeopardy game was awesome. I love that one."
I know. Yeah, I think that having like a guest star on that game would be so much fun just to see how locked in they actually are.
Yeah, it was fun to just listen to our guys. Like, oh my gosh, like it's just like June, I guess, when we did it, asking that football question, like, oh gosh, I don't even remember anything on football. This is before we went 1-11. Like this, but this football season is gonna be fun. Asking him some questions, we'll see how that goes. But
Yeah, you forget it's a long year for everybody. A lot of stuff can happen.
so yeah, let me add you to the list after Beck Taylor of all people's names, and we'll get you down for the Jeopardy game. We'll find a time once we get there.
Shout out Beck. He's awesome. He'll be in Asheville for sure.
Exactly, he'll be in Asheville for we all get there. Like I'm coming up Tuesday. Game start don't. Women don't start till Wednesday. I don't care. I'll be there Tuesday. I don't care. That sounds like something he would do. But yep. All right. Well, Blake, thanks for the time. And State of the Bulldogs is out. We'll see you next time before we get to Asheville.